Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new EntitledPeople stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Mother steps in front of my 60 miles per hour car with a flashlight. This just happened and I really need to vent. My store manager is giving me time to cool down as I'm really shaken up. I'm a delivery driver for a pizza place and get an order. I put it into Google and drive to basically the back alley ghetto of a neighborhood. I'm next to a house with tons of old washing machines and restaurant equipment. I call the person, as the delivery instructions told me I should, and the mother picks up. Hello? Me, hello ma'am, this is Op calling from Papa John's. I think I'm here. I don't see you, are you sure you're here? Me, thinking I got just the wrong house, I'm sorry, here let me drive up the road a bit. I think I see you, I live in North Carolina, so trees are everywhere. I end up driving around for 20 minutes and feeling horrible. The mother is getting aggravated as she realizes the person she saw wasn't me. I keep telling her I put in the address, but Google says I'm right where she is. She asks if I'm in a trailer park, which I wasn't. She then puts her 14-year-old son on the phone. Hey, are you retarded or something? Come to. Then he read the name of his trailer park, letter by letter, slowly. I put the name into GPS and find that it's 10 minutes away. Damn it, Google. I tell him and the kid gives the phone back to the mother. This is unbelievable, I've been waiting for an hour now, 20 minutes. Me, I'm on my way, I'm so sorry. I hang up and go to the trailer park. I get there and call her for her number. No answer. I call again, no answer. I call my store who tells me to take the second order. I had 2 people's orders with me, and to just come back. I take the second order and on my way back to the store, is standing in the middle of the road and shines a flashlight into my eyes. I slam on my brakes and nearly hit her. She calls me a retard several times and screams at me saying, "You never called," which I did. I ended up crying as I actually am autistic and the whole situation triggered a panic, anxiety attack. The S takes the food and snorts saying, "I worked in delivery, it isn't that hard." I think giving stickers at Walmart is more your speed, retard, now get the hell off my property. I drove back to the store in tears. I'm about to go back to work, venting this out here made me feel better. Edit, holy crap. I wasn't expecting so many comments. Thank you everyone for the support. I'm fine now, it just shook me up. Going through life with Asperger's, it has never been fair, let alone easy. Despite this, and what the bimbo said, I have made it far in my life and I'm only 22. I'm about to graduate college with a Bachelor's of Science. I have an internship, paid, with the government of my state and a job offer once I graduate. For those that said I should have hit her, I didn't want to risk my future for a woman in a trailer park. Also, I would never murder if I don't have to. What I should have done, as someone said in the comments, is take a page from Squidward, looked her in the eyes, and said this one is on the house, and threw it at her. The next one is titled, Karen insults others for not being religious, gets puked on by a crafty kid. Note, if you're easily disgusted by nausea, this might not be the story for you. My aunt, we'll call her Karen here, seemed to have an obsession with virtue signaling. Growing up, she loved telling others how better she was than everyone else. Her go-to points for this were being vegan, and being Christian. This story is about the latter. For many Christmases, Aunt Karen would make a point to tell me or my dad what bad people we were for not being religious, like she was. We never went to church, and my dad never made me take Sunday school. I remember Aunt Karen saying things like, "That's not gonna get you to heaven, you know," or "It's called Christmas for a reason. There's no Santa Claus in the Bible." She made snide remarks when my cousins and I watched cartoons with Santa in them. At one point, when I was a little older, she even said something to the effect of people who don't celebrate Christmas for anything other than Christ will go to hell. I don't know why my dad kept inviting her over. Something about Christmas makes people think they're obligated to be with toxic people only because they're family. One Christmas Eve, I was already in my moody, rebellious teen years, so I wasn't very merry to begin with. I dreaded having to spend another night with people that couldn't stand each other. Aunt Karen was especially snide this year, making comments like, "You wouldn't be so gloomy if you went to church for once," or "Kids today need the fear of God to straighten up. OP's sins are making him miserable." The last straw was when I heard Karen essentially tell my dad, "Your son will grow up to be a criminal if he's not taught about God and the Bible." I had enough of this lady being a witch every Christmas, so I hatched a plan to get her out of my dad's house. When I was a kid, I used to be lactose intolerant, but my dad kept a jug of milk in the fridge to go with the Christmas cookies he bought for our relatives. When no one was looking, I drank a glass of milk in the kitchen, and carried on like nothing had happened. After a while, I started feeling nauseous, but did my best to hide it. I made sure to stay near Aunt Karen whenever I could. Eventually, I started gagging, and then finally, I let out a projectile of white gunk and stomach acid on Aunt Karen. She screamed in horror about me being a disgusting little brat, and how her sparkling red dress was ruined. I pretended to cry and act remorseful, making my other relatives sympathize with me. My dad was frustrated that he had to clean the carpet, and sent me to my room. I eavesdropped on Karen lashing out at my dad for getting puked on, and, finally, my dad seemed to get the hint that his sister shouldn't have been invited. He told her to leave, so she did with my cousins in tow. I got in trouble for not using the bathroom when I threw up, but I didn't care. Karen made Christmas miserable for me, my dad, and most likely my cousins, her kids, so I decided to return the favor. I thought it'd take this small victory to my grave until I discovered Reddit. Merry Christmas, ya filthy animal. The next one is titled, My sister left me alone to watch her baby all night long while she, Bill, partied. Was furious when I billed them for the extra time. This happened when my nephew was just a year old, so like 7 years ago. My sister, asked me to babysit my nephew for her and Bill for a few hours so they could go to the Mardi Gras parades together. I said I was making plans that night so I couldn't, but she begged me to help her because they'd not had a date night since nephew was born and they needed some time alone together as a couple. I begrudgingly said I would, but only if they paid me $15 per hour, because watching a baby is hard, and I turned down plans for this. We, me, sis, and Bill, all agreed on that, so I was set to come over that Saturday night. I showed up at 5 p.m, parades were to start at 6 p.m. I think, and they both said they would be back no later than 10 p.m, so $75. I was allowed to watch TV, use their Wi-Fi, and eat, drink whatever in the fridge, but sis said I better not go nuts on their food. Wonderful jab at my weight, thanks sis. I flipped her off. Then Bill comes in with nephew and hands him off to me. I make sure to reiterate that they are both coming back at 10 and I ask for payment up front, but sis says they're going to have to stop at an ATM on the way back, they don't have any cash on them. I'm annoyed but say all right. I ask if they're going to be drinking and how they'll get back if they are, and also drive me home cause our mum drove me to their place so I was stuck, and sis says of course we're not, but I don't believe her. She can't have fun without a beer. But while she's getting her jacket, Bill says he's not drinking anything, but she probably will, so he'll be the designated driver. At least there's that. I bid them goodbye and settle in with my nephew. I play with him for hours, put on his favorite cartoons and feed him dinner, change his diaper, etc., all the usual stuff. I'm not a stranger to watching kids for relatives, so this isn't new for me. But nephew is hard to get to sleep. He wants his mum and dad. This had been the first time he'd gone to sleep without them there, and cried for almost an hour, no matter the different ways I tried to soothe him, before eventually wearing himself out and falling asleep at almost 9 p.m. I was tired but glad I was almost done for the night. 10 p.m. rolled around. Nothing. Then it got to be 10:30, so I called sis to see what the hold-up was. She answered and I could tell she'd been drinking. She was giggly, and after I asked where they were, she said they were looking for her shoe. And she said something about they ran into our cousin, another entitled person, great, and they were totally heading back ASAP. I said to hurry up and she said something I literally couldn't understand before she hung up on me. 11 p.m. rolled around and still nothing, so I called her back. It rang and rang before going to voicemail. She ended the call instead of answering. I try again and it rings even less this time before going to voicemail. She turned her phone off or it died. I call her again and same result. I can't call Bill because I don't have his number, never had to call him before. I consider calling our mum to see if she can get in touch with sis, but it's past 11 p.m. at this point, so I know she's asleep by now, so I don't bother. I don't want to wake her up unless there's an actual emergency. Plus nephew woke up at some point around then, so I had to pause trying to contact my sis and focus on getting him calmed down and sleeping again. Took a while, but he fell right asleep after I started scratching his back softly. A legit trick to get kids to sleep, knocks them right out lol, so then I wait. They finally roll up at nearly 1:30 am. I'm pissed by this point and tired, just want to get paid and crawl into bed. I'd been up since 8 am, so I was hella tired. Bill and sis stumble in, she's barefoot with her shoes in one hand and laughing loudly. I come ask them what took so long, and sis starts going on about how great a time they had, how they hung out with cousin, and she pulls these stupid unopened tubes of Mardi Gras streamers out of her purse, opens them and then flings them everywhere, loudly talking about the stuff they caught while I try to shush her. Nephew is asleep and I don't want him waking up again. She starts handing me all this crap from her purse that she said she got just for me, so don't be mad at me, okay? Like that junk would make her leaving me stranded at her place for almost twice as long as she'd promised would make everything better. The stuff was just a bunch of smushed moon pies, tons of beads, plastic cups, and other junk. I said thanks but told them I wanted to go home. Sis waved me off and said for Bill to take me home before going and flopping down onto the couch to sleep, I guess. I get my stuff and Bill takes me home, and I remind him to stop at an ATM and he sorta sighs. Like I get he was probably tired from dealing with my drunk sister for hours, but I wasn't getting screwed out of my payment. He stops at a drive-through ATM, looks at me and says, "Alright, $75 right?" Not proud of this, but I actually let out a loud ha-ha, and said that no, it would have been $75 if they'd come home at 10 like they'd said, but they showed up at almost 2 am, 3 hours late. So they owed me $125. He didn't look happy, but he got the money out and gave me my pay before silently driving me home. I went to bed exhausted but $125 richer. Next day around noon sis called me, furious I'd conned Bill out of so much extra money when we'd all agreed on him paying me $75. I asked if she was still drunk because what we'd all agreed on was that I'd be paid $15 per hour. And they left me with their son for 8 hours. I also mentioned how she'd said they wouldn't be drinking, but she came home smashed. She replied that she'd been joking, of course she was going to drink. It was Mardi Gras. I said I got paid for the work I did. But she kept arguing that I didn't really work for it, because nephew was asleep most of the time I was there. I said it didn't matter, I was still sitting for her. And how you'd be expected to pay a security guard to sit and do nothing, even if things were calm while he was on the clock. She yelled that that wasn't the same thing, and we argued back and forth with her saying I should have done it for free, he's family. You should want to be around him. I finally got fed up and said that next time she could hire some other sitter because I won't do it, or try to get some other family member to watch nephew for free, fat chance, before hanging up. I didn't want to argue with a potentially hungover nuisance. She tried running to our mum about this, but mum told her she needed to not hire babysitters if she couldn't afford to pay them. Sis called me the next day and said she told all her friends that I was crap tea and took advantage of them being late by charging them a ton more. And that none of them would hire me to babysit after this. I didn't really care because her friends are losers that I have no relationship with. Plus I only babysat for one a handful of times and her kids are loud as hell to boot. So no real loss there. I didn't babysit after that at her place ever again. I would only babysit if I was paid up front and would take nephew and niece later out somewhere, then drop him off with her when the allotted time was over so she couldn't leave them with me for longer. The next one is entitled Mum Takes Down My Posters So That Her 9-year-old son Can Have No Competition in Dog Walking. Hello people, sorry if I don't use the right terms all the time, I'm not on this subreddit too often, and this story only happened about 2 or 3 years ago so I forget a little bit about it. I remembered this because my mum brought up her experience with a M today at her work. She's a 3rd grade teacher that has many special needs kids in her class, and a M was arguing with her about whether her kid should be punished for telling someone they're a sped. I am a 14M and this happened about 2 years ago. Here's some background knowledge. So I wanted to make a little extra money because I was into stocks, and I wanted to make money for my future, invest in stocks, buy a car that would last me past high school, etc. I wanted to start making money by dog walking. I started making a poster that showed why I wanted to make money, and I had a dog. He was a medium dog, but I was a relatively strong person and I could handle most sizes of dogs. So I started printing about 30 copies of posters and started putting them on an electrical post every 200 feet or so. It took about an hour considering I didn't bike. I just followed my daily routine for the next few days, waiting to get a call from someone to ask about my dog walking. A few days after I put up the posters, I took my dog on a long walk. So I was walking, and just about after 30 minutes walking from my house there was no posters. I swear I thought I put them up. I continued my walk and I found less dog posters around this area. After about an hour walk I got home and I looked at where I mapped out where I would put the posters. There was supposed to be posters there. I called my friend who lives near there and asked him to watch the post and tell me if there was someone taking them down and when. He said sure. Later that day he called me back asking where the posters are. Oops, I forgot to mention that I would be putting them up early tomorrow before school. This was at about 10 p.m. and my parents wouldn't let me put them up when I was 12, even if I was almost 13. Friend: okay, well, see then, I guess. See you. Friend: wait, I forgot to say that there was someone standing near one of the posts for about 20 minutes. Oh, and I have seen her before, I think she lives near me. Okay, well, that's random, bye. Friend: see ya. Then next day I put up the posters, and walked to school with my friend because I was already over there. It is a normal day at school. I tell my friends about it and my friend exaggerates about the person standing by the post doing nothing. After about 10 minutes after I get home, I get a call from my friend, he lives farther from school, saying the posters have been taken down again. I am annoyed at this point, so bike over to his house and put one poster right across from his window. We head in and start playing Minecraft. I'm not paying much attention, as I'm watching the poster. There is someone maybe in their mid-40s approaching the poster. I tell my friend and we wait until they are in arm reach of the poster, they might just be looking at it. Friend: I think that's the person that was standing at the poster earlier. Okay, let's go over to them. We approach the as she turns back and gives us the eye. My friend and I quickly act like we were just taking a walk. Friend: yep, it's the person that was standing at the post earlier. Okay, we should approach her, I'll do that talking. As we approach her, she turns again and this time has the poster in her hand with a firm grip. Hello, are you interested in that? huffs and turns again, she was clearly in a bad mood. I say it again, but a little different. Are you interested in that? I put up those posters, and I can walk your dog if you're interested. I don't want you to walk a single dog. I didn't know what she meant by that. She rips off half the poster, with the other half stuck on. What are you doing? Well, since my son is going to start walking his dog soon, he wanted to make some money, so I want it to be perfect for him. Well, there is enough space for both of us. No. Well, even so, you can't take down my posters, I'm also trying to make money. Well, that doesn't matter, if your parents can afford to live in this neighborhood then you are fine. She complains, then I remember this very distinctively, when she said, anyways, you're too fat and tall to walk a dog, you couldn't walk a puppy, ha. She said the ha like Marge from The Simpsons. I was really annoyed at this point. At the time I got mad really easily. I ranted, well, even if my parents can afford to live here, you don't know anything about me and you assume that I am fat. You are a slob and a terrible parent. I bet that you have been spoiled your whole life. I know I contradict myself multiple times in that sentence, but I was mad. My parents could afford to live in the neighborhood. We live in the Bay Area, which generally costs more places than most, but my family didn't have a nice house, we just lived in a nice neighborhood. And I was not fat, I am really tall, and I have a bit of a large stomach, and it sticks out a bit, but I don't have an eating problem. I'm just built this way. I'm going to keep ripping your posters off so that my 9-year-old can walk dogs. Friend: lady, stop, my friend spent a lot of time doing this and if he wants to make money he can, you are doing a bad thing. My friend was very logical, but we're 12 so we look like complete idiots. At this point friend's mum came outside and yelled from across the street, stop being a witch and stop harassing my son and his friend. His mum was more like me, but an adult. Please stop, the reason I want to make money is to invest in my future. Shut the heck up, you just want to spend it on food, and we all know that. I was done with her craziness. I went back inside with my friend and we continued to play Minecraft. I would look back over to the argument at hand. From the looks of it, it seems like friend's mum was just being mean at this point, not even trying to fix the problem. I was fine with that. His mum let me stay for dinner, and turns out she said some pretty funny things to this woman. After dinner, I took my backpack and was going to go home when I realized I brought an extra poster. My friend and I put up the poster and giggled. I didn't care much about this, because it was a great story to tell people, even if I was mad. This is what I heard about the mom's conversation was pretty much like, FM equals friend's mum. FM said that her parenting skills were the same as an animal who abandons her child at birth. M was just kept ranting about how the whole world is crazy and no one can tell when someone is trying to be nice, and how we were evil to even suggest that I was equal to her son. I forget most stuff that happened then, but I hope that me trying to fill in what I forget was just a hair away from being the same as what actually happened. But I showed my friend what I wrote and he said that it was pretty much what actually happened, but he said that we were playing Roblox, not Minecraft. I think he was just messing with me though. I don't like Roblox, and I don't think I ever did. This woman clearly needs some help, or just someone to snap her back into a realistic state. I feel bad for her that she acts like that on a regular basis, but at the same time it's not okay whatsoever, and whatever happened to her, she deserved. My friend says he doesn't see her much anymore, just on holidays. I think she probably moved away and has family or friends that they visit during the holidays. I made about $600 before I stopped. I spent about $150 towards stocks, $50 towards money for going downtown with friends, and about $400 went towards a new graphics card for my failing one, but I bought the graphics card about 5 months ago. The next one is entitled Mum Wants Me to Pay for Her Rent. Cast, me, then closeted gay guy who, at the time, had a hard time standing up for himself. Molly, toxic waste of space that turns everything she touches into crap. Background, I have a lot of stories about this good-for-nothing waste of oxygen. This particular incident occurred about a year before my father passed away. I had put my creative aspirations on the back burner to focus on generating income so I could promote myself. For those who don't know, at one point in time, I was a very green aspiring writer and actor. I met Molly through my now retired mentor. As long as I can remember, Molly was always down on her luck and on extended breaks between jobs. Her husband was a saint for putting up with her. In addition to providing for her, their son and his stepdaughter, he paid child support to his 3 children from his first marriage. His job required a lot of extensive traveling and he would often be gone for months on end. It is my personal opinion, he had chosen this gig to preserve his sanity and so he wouldn't end up posing for a mugshot. Molly would drift in and out of my life, but after seeing how she really was, I chose to keep my distance. Any hiatus from her, as well as the fallout generated from her poor decision-making, was a godsend. It's worth pointing out, the only time she ever resurfaced was when she needed money. If she didn't get it from me, she would have gotten it from someone else. I closed my wallet to her a long time ago, because I learned the odds of her paying back whatever she borrowed were slim to none. I had learned the hard way, as my maternal grandmother put it, never part with more than you can afford to not get back. Molly never sustained employment for long. She had this attitude that she was too good to work a regular job. She often quit whatever job she had shortly after her husband left the state for his next construction gig. You may ask yourselves, how could anyone be this narcissistic? By her claims, she was an actress with 20 years experience. She was amazingly talented and you should believe her just because she said so. Despite a fake, padded resume and an overly filtered camera phone photo she tried to pass off as a professional headshot, she proclaimed she'd be famous someday. She was a legend in her own mind and had the audacity to refer to herself as the second coming of Meryl Streep. A typical tantrum went something like, Molly, ugly crying, see if you get any help from me when I'm a star, eye roll. I never saw her do much of anything for herself. She would rattle on about how much she hated her husband, but never actually took the steps to leave him because he paid for everything. Her self-entitlement ran so deep, it straddled the line between delusion's grandeur and insanity. She believed, if she repeated her lies or half-baked opinions enough, it all somehow magically became the irrefutable truth or facts. She also expected everyone to accept whatever word salad she spewed at face value. Dear reader, you and I know the world doesn't work that way. Molly would often manipulate and gaslight people into doing her bidding. She even resorted to the repugnant practice of using her kids as bargaining chips to get sympathy, i.e. handouts. She, of course, would then turn into a ghost if anyone expected to be paid back. An example of her trademark entitlement, she repeatedly used the child support she got from her first husband to buy cigarettes and get her hair done instead of spending it on her daughter. Then, after the fact, she would drunkenly rant about being unable to feed her son and daughter. Side note, her daughter is married and has a family of her own. Her son went in the military to get away from his mum and become independent. Both are in limited contact with her. I wonder why? The story, Molly, who was in her late 40s at the time, lived in a huge multi-bedroom, 2-bathroom house at the end of a cul-de-sac in the middle of a ritzy subdivision. The rent on this place was approximately $950 USD a month. With her unemployed, her husband's salary barely paid for the necessities. I remember thinking that the rent was rather steep, and with her spotty employment history, I knew it wouldn't have been long before she asked me for help. I hid my social media activity from her, set my messenger to invisible, and made it a point not to return her calls. From a mutual friend, who ponied up the money to help her move in, I became aware that she eventually ended up more than 3 months past due. Her landlord, who had been exceedingly patient up to this point, was ready to evict her. Simply put, having her for a tenant was costing him money. Why even have her around? Begin scene. Molly turned on the waterworks. Completely forgetting that he had already met her husband, she played the single mum card, the between jobs card, and any other excuse that she thought would grant her a possible reprieve from getting kicked out. Not being a total butthole, her landlord relented and proposed a deal. If Molly agreed to clean and prep several of his freshly built homes for new tenants, he would forgive the back rent. Molly would be paid minimally because, after all, she owed him money. She jumped at the chance to not be put out on the street. The arrangement went to hell in a handbasket when another tenant, who didn't owe rent, ended up working alongside her and was paid well. Naturally, Molly did not like this and felt she deserved to be paid a suitable daily rate, too. The temerity to think she thought she should be paid just for existing was too much for me to comprehend. Around this time, I got a phone call from Molly. I let it go to voicemail. I knew she would keep dialing me until I picked up. I was already well aware of her latest financial predicament. I didn't care to rehash any of it while listening to her commit character assassination against her, as far as I was concerned, very charitable landlord. I was driving and my cell phone kept vibrating. I learned never to pick up to speak to her while I was on the road. Just listening to her self-entitled rants was so infuriating, it had led to me previously almost getting into an accident. When I was parked, my phone vibrated again. I reluctantly answered. As this occurred more than 10 years ago, the following dialogue is from memory and partially paraphrased. Me, annoyed, what do you want? Molly, it's about time you answered. I cringed at the sound of her whiny, nasally droning voice. Me, I was driving. You know I don't talk on the phone while I'm driving. Molly, you could have put me on speakerphone. Me, I don't need the distraction. Plus, I'm sure whatever you have to say is far from important. Silence. I could tell I had annoyed her and I didn't care. Molly, I talk on the phone when I'm driving all the time. Me, you mean from the car that you never finished paying carry for? In case you didn't know, she contacted me and wanted to know why you ghosted her. Silence. Molly, delicately, what did you say to her? Me, something that you're incapable of, the truth. Silence. I could tell she was trying to organize all of the lies she had planned on telling me. Molly, so you're the reason why she deleted and blocked me? Me, what happened between you and Carrie is none of my business. All she did was ask me a question and I answered honestly. Now, if you don't tell me why you called in the next 3 seconds, I'm hanging up. Silence. Me, goodbye. Molly, don't. My landlord is being such a dick. Me and my neighbor are cleaning homes for him, but he's paying her twice what he's paying me. Me, and I care because? Molly, shocked, don't you think that's wrong? Me, you seem to forget, I know the whole story. The way I heard it, you're several months behind on your rent and your landlord offered you an olive branch instead of kicking you out. You're extremely ungrateful. You should be counting your lucky stars that you aren't homeless right now. Silence. Me, is that all? Molly, I have a question. I was wondering if I could. Me, cut her off, if it's about borrowing money, don't even try. The answer is not just no but no. I can't believe you even had the nerve to bring it up. Molly, pouting, you don't have to be such an a-hole. I thought we were friends. Me, I thought so too, but friends don't treat people the way you treat me. After all the crap you've pulled, the lies, the manipulation, the backstabbing, you outing me to my father, the rumor you spread about me catching an STI, that's slander by the way, why on earth would you think I'd give a SH about anything that happens to you? Silence. Molly, pleading, but my kids, me, coldly, your son and daughter have my full sympathy. I mean, they have you for a mother. Silence. Molly, fake crying, that was a bad thing to say. I'm sorry for everything, me, cut her off, no, you're not. Drop the act. Your whole crybaby routine isn't working anymore. Don't you get that? Silence. Me, you're one of the most selfish people I've ever met in my life. It's very taxing being your friend. You can't be the nastiest person and then in the next breath try to play the sad pathetic victim, charity case. Molly, infuriated, no longer fake crying, what did you just call me? Me, exactly what you said you were the last time we spoke. Molly, confused, what? Me, you said you had two sides to yourself. The bad side and the victim. Molly, playing dumb, well, I don't remember that. Me, snarky, of course not. Why should you? You talk so much crap your brain can't keep up. Seriously, you could fertilize the state of Iowa with your mouth. Silence. Me, look, I'm already bored with this conversation. I have stuff I need to do. Don't call me looking for a favor or anything involving money ever again. Molly, begging, op, please. Me, cut her off, one other thing, you should really be careful who you run your mouth to. All of the people that you talk crap about me to, talk to me. I've seen screenshots. Silence. Me, smugly, don't bother snooping or trying to figure out which ones ratted you out. It'll only make you look guilty as hell and you wouldn't want that, now would you? Silence. I could tell she was boiling with rage. Molly, F got. I hung up. Despite Molly's homophobic slur ringing through my ears, I completed my grocery shopping with a sense of accomplishment that I had finally excommunicated her, albeit temporarily, from my life. In case you're wondering, yes. Molly stopped showing up for work, was promptly evicted and ended up living out of a hotel before joining her husband on the road. The only ones I felt bad for, in this whole thing, were her kids. Edit, for those of you who have asked, at the time of this incident, I had shelved my creative aspirations and Molly had become really nervous. I'd been introduced to her after I had completed my first screenplay. She had presumed, because we were friends, I would hire her when the time came to film. Her overall lack of ambition, poor work ethic, no drive, horribly entitled attitude and no experience caused me to make a hard pass. Over the years that I knew her, both she and I got bit parts in independent films that never saw the light of day. Thanks to a mutual friend, I found out she was parading around my script, which she had plagiarized, claiming it was hers. I talk about this in one of the above-linked posts. When it was all said and done, I roasted and shamed her back into the obscure dark corner from which she came. I haven't seen or heard from her in 7 years and don't care to ever again. Edit 2, to those of you who had asked and pointed out, I really don't know if Molly is nuts. Following the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again expecting different results, Molly is crazy. I actually think it's much more simpler than that. She never listened to comprehend, but only to reply. Once she realized she wasn't getting the answer she wanted, she abandoned the conversation, her brain became like a great big etch-a-sketch and forgot everything that transpired. It was during my last phone call with Molly that I gave her and her entitlement the biggest verbal whooping ever. I confronted her for having committed plagiarism and copyright infringement against me. I was finally able to purge her from my life when I sent proof of her dirty deeds, along with her falsified work history, including her doctored resume, to every contact I had. That closed most doors to her. She shut down completely, but we all know that narcissists never stay depressed for long. She just went looking for her next target.